Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host Ren, and today we continue with the Belmont Saga, Part 1, Chapter 8, Undisclosed at this time. Last week, Paymaster Stenstrom meets his now friendly antagonist, Lieutenant Gwendolyn, in space, where she tries to dock her scouting ship, which is much smaller than the Seeker, and come aboard, therefore nullifying Paymaster Stenstrom's appointment, sending him back to the fleet to face any number of charges and writs currently posted against him. Gwendolyn and Stenstrom patch things up a bit. It is a friendly contest, both doing their best, but keeping things above board. And then Gwendolyn says, well, I'm thinking of shooting out your engine. I just want to make sure everyone's safe before I do it. But we didn't get to that point because an odd gravity anomaly formed suddenly at the Seeker's aft, and the Seeker quickly fell into said anomaly, disappearing from the scene. And that's where we left off. This week, in chapter not disclosed at this time, we are gonna find out some shit. I have been dangling threads and streams over, what, 1 1/4 books now? And this chapter right here is gonna be the payoff. Don't you hate it when you read something or you watch something and the creator or the author creates a number of interesting scenarios and then never pays them off, a la my good friend Jar Jar Abrams and frickin' Lost. Yeah. No, you're not gonna get that with me. I create things, I create drama and suspense and ask questions, and I answer them. How novel is that, JJ? And we're gonna answer a whole bunch of stuff right here and now, and it's gonna be weird and it's gonna be cool. We're gonna learn a lot. And the reason I'm not saying the name of the chapter is because it'll give away too much. Because sometimes when I name my chapters, I need slapped upside my gourd. So this is just about 20 pages. Probably going to be about an hour's worth of reading. But we're going to find out a lot in this hour. Oh, yes, we are. And as I've been saying, the evil half of me is like, hey, that lantern is pissing me off because it's making things too easy for our intrepid trio. But that lantern is going, it's a bye-bye. Bye-bye, lantern. Bye-bye. 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 In this chapter. And it's going to suck for our heroes, but that's what happens. Things suck, and you have to rise up to the occasion. You gotta stand fast, stand tall, and make yourself known in the face of adversity. And having the lantern around does not create adverse situations. It creates very beneficial situations, and those beneficial situations are now at an end. So let's proceed immediately. Let's get to this payoff. Let's answer some questions. Part 1, Chapter 8, Sir Not Named at this time. Stenstrom shot out of his chair. Taara, what happened to the Demophalon, John? Well, I don't know. According to this viewer, we're on the other side of the flippin' league now. The lantern light spun about like a crazy top, the beam pointing this way and that without end. What's our exact position? Near zero. Camelopartis area, uninhabited space. He turned to A-Ram. Do we have helm control? Yes, it's back, Bell, and I agree with Taara. According to my helm screens, we're way over on the other side of the league, near Zaffin space. The holocone suddenly came to life. Something moved, and a voice crawled.
Paymaster Stenstrom, Lord of Belmont, welcome. We have been expecting you.
Stenstrom stood up. Identify yourself.
Please come to the ship's priory as soon as you are able. We will be waiting.
Who is this? He said. Lily? Is that you? There was no answer. I'm not going anywhere until you have properly identified yourself. The voice again.
We have known you all your life. We held you aloft when you were a baby, barely a few moments old. We watched over you and we protected you. We returned you to your mother's arms. And, best of all, we have known you intimately many times.
Sisters? Stenstrom asked.
The Priory, sir. We are waiting for you.
The lantern moved of its own accord. It wrenched itself free from the missives panel and floated in midair, its golden chain moving like a silk ribbon. Its guiding blue light went out, replaced by a purplish one. Hey! Taara cried. What's happening to our lantern? Oh, my shit's dead now. The voice came again.
The Paramel is our property. We forgive you its unauthorized use. Again, we wait you in the Priory.
Hello? We sorta need that, Taara piped, and the voice did not reply. The holocone then went out and died. Taara, what systems do we have left? Well, nothing right now. The panel's shot without the lantern. A-Ram held the wheel. I don't like the sound of that, Belle. Well, me neither, Taara said. The sisters used to give me the horrors, and they're stealing our bloody lantern. I told you we'd get in trouble using it, A-Ram said. Stenstrom stood, checked his ints. Well then, let's go. What are we waiting for? Following the floating lantern, they slowly made their way out of the lit-up bridge, once again into the dark, stuffy interior of the ship. They climbed down the lift shaft and into the lower reaches of the neck of the ship. The dark halls of Deck 6 seemed even darker than before as they made their way down the corridor. The metal walls and looming shadows were alive with noises, rattles, and half-seen movements.
Taara.
Belmont, where's your mother? A-Ram.
Shadow figures darted about in the lantern's purple light. Stenstrom drew his pistols ready to fire. They reached the priory area and the lantern drifted in, its beam throwing all the tossed furniture and fallen pieces of art into bloody, jagged relief. Taara drew her huge SK and cocked it. They made their way through the antechamber to the forbidden rooms beyond. Lily was in there, Stenstrom said, pointing to a side room. A-Ram poked his head in. Well, there's nobody in there now. Stenstrom looked around. Lily? He called out, not expecting to hear a reply. Wait. Belle? Came a soft voice from the depths of the priory. Did you hear that? Taara asked. Is that Lily? Well, it sounds like her. Stenstrom quickened his pace. Lily! He called again. They reached a great oaken door and an adjacent open archway, leading into what looked like a dense wooded space that was slightly lit up in soft purple, joining the lantern's beam. Through this door is a passage leading to the bottom of the ship. That's where you two were being held. That's where all the bodies were, right? Taara asked, holding her SK. Indeed. He pointed at the opened archway, and this was filled in when I was here before. It was just a blank wall. The lantern must be opening a gateway, just like Lily had done. Well, gateway to where? Taara asked. Through the archway, Lily's voice drifted out again, only this time it was anguished and sorrowful. Belle. Lily! Stenstrom cried. We're coming! He turned to A-Ram and Taara. Come on, let's go! They continued through the arch and down the path. Trees and low brush were everywhere. An obvious path led away to a bend through the trees. Grass and dry leaves crunched under their boots, and the temperature changed. Looking up, the sky was purplish and dusted with starlight. Where are we? A-Ram asked. Is this the astral plane you were referring to? Stenstrom checked his gear. No, it's not. Lily said that the sisters' priories are connected to some sort of pocket plane or dimension that they have free access to. That's how the sisters always seem to escape a doomed starship, he said. Lily led me through here to Cana, just like we're doing now, only this time it's not Cana. Look at the sky, it's the wrong color, and I don't recognize the stars. Well, the damn sisters can't have the lantern back, Belle. We need it, Taara said. She reached for its chain, but it moved away, floating on air, light as a filament, easily avoiding her grasp. They continued down the path until they came to a clearing. In the center of the clearing were two structures. One was a large gray building made of stone, squat and dome-like, rising up about 100 feet. The other was a narrow, cylindrical tower composed of lacy, purplish-blue metal. A-Ram craned his neck, and the tower went up and up until it broke the clouds and faded from view, a rather dizzying sight to behold. What is that? A-Ram asked. Oh, that tower looks high enough to enter orbit. I'm going to puke, Taara said. Oh, come on, where's the pluck I've come to expect from you, Stenstrom said. He took a good look at the gray stone building ahead and stopped. I've seen this building. Lily showed it to me. Come on, let's get to the bottom of this. A-Ram was apprehensive. I know the sisters' protocols, Belle. Entering the priory is forbidden unless you've been invited. You were invited, but not either of us. Not me, certainly, as I'm a bloody untouchable. The sisters, they might get angry. I'm certain the sisters won't mind your presence. The sisters have belittled me and my family for as long as I can remember, he said with a distinct touch of bitterness. For those of us here who have not had the pleasure of their repeated attention, I find it most galling. A door opened in the center of the dome-like building with a gritty slide. The darkened doorway invited them to enter. Lily! Stenstrom called out. No answer. The lantern cast its beam on the open doorway. Slowly they approached and went inside. They rubbed their eyes and struggled to see in the dark. The lantern's light lost in the vastness. Within was a modestly furnished open space with the heights of the dome hovering and rustling overhead with overgrown ivy and nested birds. Dead leaves littered the floor. 4 figures sat in the center of the dome. Stenstrom remembered seeing them also. They did it all, Belle, Lily had said. Who are you? Stenstrom called out, but the figures didn't answer. 4 sisters sat on small couches in the center of the dome. They had no Marines with them, which was an odd sight for Stenstrom, who honestly couldn't recall a time in the past when he saw a sister without one in attendance, even when he was participating in their program. As usual, They sat with perfect posture and grace, their hands placed properly in their laps. "They did it all, Belle." "Sisters?" he asked. In addition to the missing Marines, the sisters seemed a bit odd in other small ways as well. Though they were sitting, they appeared abnormally elongated, and Stenstrom guessed they might very well be freakishly tall if they stood up. As per usual with the sisters, they were quite pretty in a motherly sort of way, though one of them had a rather ovoid, somewhat reptilian face. Stenstrom imagined if she were to open her mouth, she might have a forked tongue and possibly snake's fangs. Also, their complexions, though perfect, appeared distinctly green, though that was probably a trick of the dim lighting of the dome. Their dress was also a little off from most of the sisters Stenstrom had ever seen. They had the usual white robes, wrapped up arms to the wrist, and large cornet-like headdresses, but instead of the usual sky blue traveling cloaks the sisters always wore, a very comforting color, these wore either dark blue or black cloaks over their white robes. Under the heights of the dome, the two opposing sides stared at each other for an agonizingly long stretch of time. Leaves crunched underfoot as birds rustled overhead. Finally, Stenstrom spoke. "Great sisters, it is with profound relief that we find you here today. Your presence is comforting, as always." The sisters smiled and then looked at Private Taara. She gulped and took a few hesitant steps forward. "I am honored that the Sisterhood of Light would grace me as the vessel of their thoughts," she said in a quiet, practiced manner. She spoke again, this time words not of her own making. The sisters barged into her head and took her over. "Lord Belmont," Taara said, suddenly carrying herself in an alien demeanor, "it pleases us truly to see you safe and unharmed. You have caused quite a stir in the fleet admiralty, so we've been told." Another sister barged into Tara's head. Again she spoke. "We are pleased at your progress, Lord Belmont. You have shown great ingenuity and tenacity in this matter. We are most impressed." Again there was a bout of silence as the two groups stared at each other, Taara trying to clear her head. The lantern floating high overhead came to life, throwing a strong yellow beam down on the sisters. Bathed in its living light, they suddenly no longer seemed green or reptilian or overly tall. They appeared as fair, flawless ladies. "Yes," Taara said, "we ought to be more careful with our things, shouldn't we? The wonders the Paramel shows true." There was another bout of silence, and then Taara spoke again. "Lord A-Ram," one of them said through her mouth, "we are curious. Why did you choose to join Lord Belmont in space? Certainly knew there would be consequences. We had you decided as a hopeless wretch and spineless coward and progeny of bad chefs and bad brant-ball players, not worth another look. You and your family." A-Ram slightly reacted. "Well, why not just stare 'em and find out for yourself?" Taara said, momentarily regaining control of her mouth. Just as quickly, the sisters wrenched it back. "Oh, because that's so uncivilized, Private," she said, responding to herself. A-Ram looked at the floor and answered, "I thought what the Admiral was doing to Lord Belmont was unjust and most cruel. I thought the Admiral was cheating Lord Belmont out of his coin, and for no good reason, and I thought he was a decent fellow who deserved help. I wanted to help him. I wanted to be his friend. And you've no regrets? None, great sister. Ah, true friendship. You shall be rewarded, Lord A-Ram, for your unexpected display of courage. We appreciate and newly admire you, sir. Perhaps we, like everyone else, were wrong about you and failed to see the heart beating within your frail little chest. The sisters turned to Taara. It was odd hearing her speak about herself in the third person. And you, Private Taara, always a little rebel, are you not? So lonely and starving for attention on piteous Baz. And, like Lord A-Ram, not near the hopeless wretch your people thought you to be, are you? And that's saying a lot, coming from Baz. You too shall be rewarded for your bravery. And yes, you are correct, Private. We are dangerous. We are savage and brutal, truth be told, which is why we have asked you three to come to us. We have work for you all, and you in particular, Lord Belmont, and you shall be suitably rewarded. Work, he said. I don't understand. The sisters were silent. I heard Lily's voice, he asked. Lillian of Gamboa. Is she here? Taara approached him, fully under the sisters' control. Oh, but of course she's here. May I see her? She needs me. Oh, does she? Ah, young love. Yes, you will see her, but first, allow us to ask a question. That mask, Lord Belmont, tell us, why do you wear it? Stenstrom struggled for words. I admired the exploits of Lord Terence of Walther. Taara gazed up at him, her eyes alien and unfamiliar. Ah, we understand. The Mad Lord of Walther. How interesting. Certainly you know our official policy regarding the Mad Lord of Walther was public dismissal, seizure of lands, censure, banishment, and his eventual execution. And is that the only reason? Stenstrom stood there. You feel shy, Taara said. You needn't feel shy with us, of all people, after all we've shared together. Her hand, controlled by the sisters, wandered to his chest and moved down past his sash in a provocative manner. Allow us to answer for you. Could it be that you wear a mask because you believe that your late mother once cast a spell that will tear your soul apart, should you choose to engage in dangerous activities, and that mask and the magical items you have hidden within it protects you? That, in trying to save you, your mother poised a knife at your throat, just like she always had, in your chest, perhaps. Ah, the price of motherly love. And now, being deceased, being under the ground, there is no way to remove the spell, is there? That you have an everlasting stain on your soul. Is that correct? Stenstrom answered, Yes, great sisters. What was the point in lying? Clearly, we know all about your mother's former activities and could have acted should we have had a mind to do so. We did not, for your sake. Tell us, how do you feel about your mother? I love my mother to this day. I would have her no other way than what she was. I failed her. I didn't come home when she asked. Oh, spoken like a true son. It will interest you to know that your mother did not cast the spell that has imperiled your soul. Your mother, throughout your life, loved you very much, to the point of madness. She set no demons against you, silly. She put no stain on your soul. Stenstrom considered that for a moment. Then where did the soul devourers come from? Taara's eyes grew wide. We did that, Lord Belmont, she said. It was not your mother who put the curse on your soul. It was us, in this very spot. Lily, in the scene at the pool, came flooding back to him. They did it, she said. They did it all. The sisters did it. Stenstrom stood there. I don't understand. Do you not remember seeing us in the mirror aboard your old ship? That rotting rust bucket sandwich, I think it's called? That one? Do you not recall feeling our hands claw at your chest? Yes, we have been lending our influence into your life for some time now, since you were a child, in fact. It was through our efforts that you survived your birth, for you nearly perished. We have always been near, guiding you with a firm but loving hand. Stenstrom didn't know how to take any of this. Sisters, again, I don't understand your continued interest in me. Who am I but a lord of Belmont? Who indeed? Across the league there are whispered tales of solitary men who are of exceptional quality. On Cana there are tales of the star that does not fall. On Onaris, the lone rider. On Baz, there's the It-Man, the man who comes and goes. You, Lord Belmont, are the It-Man, the lone rider. You are the star that does not fall. The sisters paused for a moment. Stenstrom didn't know what to do or what to say. A-Ram shuffled uncomfortably. Sisters, A-Ram quietly said, looking at the floor, unable to meet their gaze. Those are children's stories. The sisters ignored him. Taara continued in their voice. These special men have the genetic ability to receive and utilize our power. They are no child's story, Lord A-Ram. There have been others like you through the centuries. Hama of Telmus Falls, Atrajak of Want, Billis the Knave, Darius Jones of Baz, and most recently, Terence, the Mad Lord of Walther. Normally, the birth of these It-Men, using the Baz reference, are rare, perhaps once in a passing of centuries. Another sister said, We had our Lord Terence of Walther and did not expect, per our calculations, to see another It-Man for 300 years, and he was to be born in the Barrow region according to our charts. We do manipulate things a bit with our celebrants. And then there was you, out of the clear blue sky, the It-Man we never saw coming. Taara held her hand where it was, at his crotch, her eyes burning. We checked our calculations. Certainly we'd made a mistake. Her fingers tightened. But no, we made no mistake. There was to be no It-Man from Esther for another 1,000 years. Yet, there you were. How could this be? How could this be? How? Taara spoke in a dreamy, breathy sort of fashion. We were quite determined to find out, so much so that a grand abbess gave your case her personal attention. And eventually, we had the answer. You are a manufactured It-Man. You came to be via chemical methods, not genetics. Your departed mother used chemical tinctures to enhance her body for years to prevent the creation of a male child, to blackmail your father into quitting the fleet and staying at home with her. Her internal chemistry, we found, had changed because of the prolonged exposure to these chemicals, creating a unique situation in her womb. And then your father, craving a son after 29 daughters, took the so-called God sperm potion from Baz. These two tinctures collided in your mother's womb, creating quite the spectacle. And this is absolutely true, Lord Belmont, we thought her womb might explode. The signs were there. The chemistry was there. We're like, this woman's womb is going to blow with her child in it. And we had to take steps. Whoa, we took steps. And there was yet a third element to this odd puzzle. We found in our analysis that the potion your father took on Baz was tainted with an unknown substance of caustic properties. We believe the potion he drank on Baz was poisoned. The exact nature of this poison remains a mystery. Clearly, an extraordinary set of circumstances conspired together to create you, Lord Belmont, the It Man, who nearly slipped through our attention, but nearly's not good enough, is it? Stenstrom opened his mouth to pose several questions, and Taara, under the sisters' control, cut him off. We are fortunate to have you, Lord Belmont, for there is work to be done. Please attend. The recent Kestrel affair revealed to us that we are arrogant and possibly out of touch with the happenings in the League. It is our responsibility. All the people who died, they are on our hearts and in our conscience, and we are here to protect the people, and we failed. In light of this, we feel it is time to resurrect an old custom for the good and safety of the League. Your hero, the Mad Lord of Walther, was our fist. He performed our bidding. Hama, Atrajak, Billis, Darius Jones, they were our fists too. Another sister barged into Taara's head. And you are our fist as well. We of the sisterhood are in an unusual situation, Lord Belmont. We have power. It is largely understood that we have power. Yet if we openly display too much of it, the people begin to fear, don't they? The people fret for their freedom in their lives. And we suppose there is a validity to such a feeling. Therefore, we cannot allow the League to see us unchained, unfettered. What a sight that would be, wouldn't it? We must smile and bow and be suitably demure for the people. We, in past times, have granted some of our power to select male individuals, the It Men with extraordinary qualities, the lone riders. A heroic male figure doing extraordinary things seems much less threatening to the masses at large than we of the sisterhood doing it. Appearances are everything, are they not? You, Lord Belmont, possess those exceptional qualities, and we thank the elders for your birth. We have steered you to this moment throughout your life. You, like those select men before you, are our fist. A-Ram found his voice and spoke up. But, great sisters, all the men you mentioned, Hama of Telmus Falls, Atrajak of Want, Billis the Knave, Darius Jones, and even the Mad Lord of Walther, they were all lunatics. Hama was a cannibal. The Telmus area of Vithland still reeks with the ghosts of the devoured he made. He consumed his own children for creation's sake. Atrajak was a slayer of sisters and had been erased from the history books. Billis the Knave nearly committed genocide on Hoban. Darius Jones was a raving madman running nude through the streets, and the sisterhood burned Lord Terence of Walther's holdings to the ground and publicly called him out and executed him. All four sisters were suddenly pained and heartbroken. They wiped away tears. In the case of Lord Walther, that was a carefully crafted public ruse. As his name implied, the Lord Walther truly went mad towards the end of his life. We took too much from him. We cherished Lord Walther. He honored us, did his service to the League well, and though at great cost to himself. Behold! Floating high overhead, the lantern cast a beam of strong yellow light to the far end of the dome. A crypt appeared. Standing over the crypt was a large statue of a man, hat, billowy pantaloons, spurred boots, and a handsome face behind a jeweled mask. Stenstrom had seen this man before when he was a child. It was the Mad Lord. We keep his remains here, close to us, for we loved him so. As he inspired our hearts and minds of the League, so too did he for us as well. To keep our secret safe, we had to destroy him, to take everything he had. Though the penance we pay in grief continues to this day, you, Lord Belmont, can only hope to be half the man he was. The sisters let Taara go for a moment, and they all turned to the crypt and looked at it with longing and reverence. Then they turned back and continued. To properly honor that man, we are not going to repeat our past mistakes with you. We of the sisterhood are not perfect. We have failed several times with the Itmen of old. Hama had access to our power all the time, and it tore through his soul, and he went mad with the power we gave him. Atrijak, too, showed the same degeneration. We hit upon the idea of limiting the Itman's access to our power, and Billis seemed to thrive much better than Hama or Atrijak, but he too eventually fell into madness. Darius Jones was simply unhinged from the start. With the Mad Lord, we used the sisters who were genetically compatible with him to fill the tower outside, and he thrived for years and years. His madness came upon him suddenly and unexpectedly. Another sister spoke. And hence our coming to you, Lord Belmont, as often as we did. Many of the sisters slumbering in the great tower outside are of your blood, are of your seed. And another sister, it wasn't our power that drove Lord Terence truly mad. It was something else. Someone introduced a poison into his system, and that's what drove him mad. Additionally, Lord Terence, as was Hama and Atrijak and Billis before him, he was alone with the weight of the League on his shoulders, and alone with our power. We have made mistakes with all the Itmen of the past, and we shall not repeat our mistakes with you. At last, the lone rider shall be alone no more. Those who have chosen to stand at your side shall guard your soul, your sanity, and keep you well. You shall be surrounded by people who love you. Look, Lord Belmont, look what we have given you. Stenstrom found himself rather mesmerized by all of this. He struggled to speak. What have you given me? We've given you everything. We gave you the desire to long for the stars, to want to be part of something larger than yourself. We gave you your thirst for knowledge and adventure. We gave you your membership to the Bones Club and the Ibana. And we gave you the Seeker. The Seeker? You gave it to me? Of course we did. We wanted you to have it. Captain Gona, hearing those troubling noises, thinking his ship was haunted, went fleeing into retirement. And the Admiralty wanted to decommission the ship, and we pressured them not to. We kept our thoughts plain to the Admiralty regarding the Seeker, leaving the way open for you. Well, Captain Gona is correct regarding the haunting, sisters. This ship is infested with demons. We have heard them as well, A-Ram said, finding his voice after some time. And the sisters smiled. Is it? From behind Stenstrom came a chilling voice.
Taara.
He turned, and of course nobody was there. And another voice came.
Where is your mother, Belmont?
He turned, but again, nothing was there. We are the demons besetting this ship, Lord Belmont. It is we who haunt it, Taara said. We needed certain things of you. Your training as a sorcerer, we assisted in that. The soul devourers who pushed you across the face of the League, we did that as well, to drive you in the direction we wanted you to go. We couldn't allow you to simply join the fleet and become another officer. We had to make you something else, something novel. The HRN coat you wear, your mask. We wanted to self-style you as an eccentric, as with the Mad Lord before you. Great men are always eccentric, are they not? We had to turn you into the fool, into the cad, so that we could publicly dismiss and laugh you off as a mere oddity, not worth a second thought. Who would suspect that the masked fool actually wields the sisters' power? And then, to top things off, we gave you this ship. Stenstrom took exception. No, great sisters, I'm sorry. You did none of that. My coat, my schooling, my admission to the Bones Club, my occupation as a fleet paymaster, that was all Lily's doing. And the sisters smiled. And we gave you your Lily as well. Come again? You refer to Lady Lillian of Gamboa, of course. Lillian of Gamboa does not exist, Lord Belmont. They paused a moment to allow Stenstrom to drink in the information, and then they continued. Oh, there actually is a Lillian of the House of Gamboa, a small, insignificant woman your mother once fancied, and she did come to your home on 2 occasions to meet you, but not a third time, for she developed a powerful dislike of you. The woman you met and came to know is not her. Stenstrom, from his previous meeting with Lily in the bowels of the ship, knew all that, but it was still odd to hear it out loud. You must be mistaken, he said. Are we? Look, Lord Belmont, one of them said, pointing to the far end of the dome near the Mad Lord's crypt. See your Lily. Stenstrom turned. There, in the far distance, he saw a blonde-headed woman in a pink Gamboa gown emerge from the shadows. He saw her holding a parasol. Lily, he said. Lily! Stand fast, please, Lord Belmont, the sister said. Not hearing them, he sprang over the sisters' couches and ran towards her, his HRN coattails flapping. Lily! Lily! He cried. The possibilities registered through his mind as he sprinted toward her. The question that had been festering, "What is Lily?" was about to be revealed. Was she an enchantress? Was she a sister? As he approached, she glanced at him and backed up into the darkness near the crypt. After a few more steps, he was there, the statue of the Mad Lord of Walther towering over him. In a corner next to the crypt, Lily stood. She was pressed into the wall, the back of her hand demurely covering her face. Her expression was that of sorrow and anguish. Lily? No answer. She didn't move. The radiant beam from the lantern floating high overhead panned down and shined on Lily. Lillian of Gamboa transformed in the light. In her place was a perfectly formed pillar of sand in her image. Pink gown gone, blue eyes gone. Just sculpted sand in human form. And he gazed at it in horror. Lily? He managed to stammer. The sand glistened back at him. The molded face in sand looked sad, like she had just lost something dear to her. You have loved a woman of sand, Lord Belmont, all these years, the sister said from far away. She was our gift to you, your protector, your tutor, your lover, arming you for battle and sending you in the direction we wanted you to go. That was her purpose, and it has come to an end, as has she. Everything spun. He felt his brain short-circuiting. All the truths of the world were suddenly gone. Now there was chaos. Lily emerged from the darkness. Lily slayed hundreds of soul devourers. I accept, Lily had said, taking his hand. Everything he had done for her. For Lily. She suggested he go to school, and so he went to school. She suggested he join the Bones Club, so he did it. She gave him the idea of becoming a fleet paymaster. She selected his HRN uniform. She wound him up and set him to it. She did it, and she did it all. How could this be? How could he have not known? Even his mother had been fooled. Rooted in normalcy, talented but mundane. Sand. All this time. Lady Alatrix knew. I don't know what she is, but she's not a woman. It's as if she's steering you to some predetermined destination. And Callie. What had Callie seen? Who is that you ditched me for? How do you mean? I don't know. She seemed kind of strange, like a mannequin. And here was Lily, and she was not but a woman of sand. There was a word scraped into the sand above her breast. I accept. He reached out to her, his mask becoming damp. It's all right. Lily, I'm gonna take you home. He touched her face and she fell apart. He watched the sand slip through his fingers and fall to the floor in an uncaring hiss. There was something hidden in the mound of sand as it fell away. Many thin, squarish objects stacked together in the center. He probed the mound with his hands. The square objects were letters, dozens of them. All the letters he'd written Lily over the years. Here they were, unopened, unread, intercepted, and discolored in sand. His love's discourse stacked up and hidden near the heart of an artificial woman. Lily! He choked. The letter slipped out of his hands and drifted to the top of the Mad Lord's crypt. He fell to his knees. The loss, the feeling of total loss, he openly wept. The sisters were unimpressed. Come now, Lord Belmont. Do get a hold of yourself. You're making a scene. Please attend to us at once. His eyes flashed in anger. The sisters, how could they? How dare they? This is all their fault. They murdered his Lily, and they did it all. He drew his ints, ready to slay the four of them, right here and now. Before another moment had passed, he was TK'd off the ground, his pistols pointing towards the dome high above, and was carried back in attendance to the sisters. They spun him around and forced him to face them. What is the point of this, Lord Belmont? Taara asked for them in a stern voice. It is done. Cry over your phantom love another time, and face reality. We tried to give you love, albeit temporarily, and we tried to guide you, to do you a favor. He hung there in TK and wept uncontrollably. One of the sisters appeared perturbed. Really, Lord Belmont, this display is most unbecoming. You should... A-Ram stirred, he spoke up. And so, this is the Sisterhood of Light, is it? I spent my youth believing there was something wrong with me and my family. See the A-Rams, they say in Calvert. Look at how the sisters regard them not. Look at them, they are fools. And we were humbled and shamed, not worthy of the sisters' attention. Now, here you are, revealed before us tormentors, manipulators, and inflictors of pain. Little more than black hats without the mask. Look what you've done to him, and all on a whim. One of the sisters turned to face A-Ram, but another seated nearby raised a hand, and the first sank back into her seat. The sister in the center crouch watched Stenstrom weep, and her expression changed. She pulled him close to her, reached out and wiped away one of his tears. She appeared sad. "We meant to give you love and safety and guidance. We didn't mean for you to become devoted to her. We expected your long departures to prevent that." "What do you want, Lord Belmont?" Taara said in a kind voice. "I want Lily. I want to kill you." Taara walked up to Stenstrom, reached up and took his sobbing face into her hands. "Perhaps we have underestimated the effect our woman of sand would have on you. Perhaps we underestimated you as well. We've used similar tactics before, and our fellows did never respond in quite this fashion. I wonder if all those who came before you were men at all, even our beloved Lord Walther. Perhaps we underestimated the capacity of your heart to love, to cherish the woman of sand, to truly love. Lillian of Gamboa, a woman who doesn't exist. Perhaps our hearts are so old that we have forgotten what that is like. And if that is the case, then we repent what we have inflicted upon you. We do not mean to be cruel." The sister lifted her hand, and his hat and mask were gently TK'd off his head and face. "We wish to offer you a gift." She took the hovering mask and unwound it with TK. The 3 silver hermelanes he had fashioned to protect himself from the soul devourers came out of the fabric and floated on air. Taara spoke. "Were we truly cruel and uncaring, we would simply give you back the woman of sand, the phantom of Lillian of Gamboa that we made all too well." His golden locket with Lily's portrait in it came floating out of his coat pocket. It hovered near his face and opened. There was Lily's beautiful face. He wondered if she had actually painted it herself, or if it was a sister somewhere in one of their strongholds had done it. And he was racked with anguish. "But should we do that, you would be living an illusion, a lie," Taara said. "She is not real. Her love for you is fabricated, pre-programmed. A heart such as yours deserves a heart in kind. And she was simply a tool we used. A touch of jasmine, a hint of rose, and a pile of virgin sand is all she ever was. We would not have you trapped in such a fantasy. Your fine heart is broken, and it is our fault. We see that now, but fear not. We shall repair your broken heart, and yea, we shall strengthen it. You deserve a real love, one that is earned and cultivated with time. You, It-Man, will not be alone, as was our beloved Mad Lord. You will be surrounded by your friends and those who love you, your soul kept safe. You shall love another, and forget all about Lillian of Gamboa." With a flick of her wrist, the 3 hermelins in his gold locket clattered away and fell to the floor. "You won't be needing those any more. We take back the curse on your soul," Taara said. In a flash of blue light, a new hermelin formed, spinning in mid-air. It formed into the shape of a man in a long coat, holding his hands to his heart. "We replace the old magic with a new hermelin, one that shall tend to your broken heart and shield you from all the torments that go with it." The hermelin floated into the loose folds of the mask. It returned to him and settled back over his eyes, the cloth damp from his tears. "Wear this, and be protected until your true love comes to steal your heart afresh. Your true love shall unmask you, Lord Belmont, our It-Man, our lone rider. Through you, we shall atone for our mistakes of the past." Stenstrom stopped weeping, and the sisters released him from their TK. His hat floated back down onto his head. He stood up, wiping his face, catching his breath. A-Ram put his hand on his shoulder. You all right, Belle? He asked. He tried to speak. I'm all right, A-Ram. He turned to the sisters. Why have you done this to me? He asked, wiping his eyes. To groom you to serve the League, as all the It-Men before you have done. You have work that is bigger than all of us. Dedication to the League is the hallmark of the sisterhood. Everything we do is for the good and safety of the League. That tower you were admiring on your way in here, it contains over 1,000 sisters, many of which are of your blood, all of whom have dedicated themselves to this task. They sleep within it, adding their power to the service of the League. You shall have occasional access to this power. We shall allow you to borrow it when we see fit. Another sister grabbed into Taara's mind. Likewise, to protect you from the prolonged exposure that damned Hama and Atrajak, we shall take the power back when we see fit. As long as you can see Camelopardalis in the sky, the constellation of the candle flame that is the center of the solar empire, the Elders' universe, you will have access to the League's power. Under its light is the domain of the solar empire the Elders founded long ago, that which we have kept in trust from ages past. You will be our fist. You will follow our commands, searching the League in your seeker for signs of the Kestrels, and where you find them, you will destroy them. That is your ongoing task. And with that, we conclude Part 1, Chapter 8, which now I can reveal as being called The Woman of Sand. So as I promised, we learned a lot in that chapter. We learned a heck of a lot. This was the payoff. This is the reasoning behind all the things that have happened to Lord Belmont and to A-Ram and Taara in the past. And it's not quite over yet. The next chapter continues this encounter a little bit. To give you a little backstory, the sisters have a lot of power. They're very powerful. The Elders imbued them with great power. They were the stewards of the Elders from ages past, and accordingly they had a great deal of power. Their mental abilities, their TK, is without peer, and they really can't. Their minds are so powerful, they really don't use their mouths to speak, which is why they have to grab hold of Taara and let her do the talking for them. Because when they speak, it's kind of guttural and weird sounding. So the sisters have all this power, but they feel, and probably rightly so, that if they use too much of it, people will start to fear for their freedom. Like, what the hell? But in past, they have used the services of men who had the ability to receive, they can voice their power on anybody, but if you're not the right type, if you don't have the genetic makeup, it'll kill you. You'll pretty much explode with that power. But the certain men who were all created using bloodlines and lineage and so forth, these men, and they call them the It Men. And yes, I did get that from the It Girl from the 20s, Clara Bow. I just liked it. I like that name, so refer to him as the It Man usually, even though he has other names like the Star That Does Not Fall and the Lone Rider and so forth. Give these men their power in the past, and a lot of the people they mention, Hama of Telmus Falls, was the progenitor of Vith mythology. I think I've mentioned him before. You don't really see him in the actual stories, but you get hints of his presence here and there. Every so often we talk about Subra of the Mark, the first Shadow Tech female. Subra was Hama's daughter, and there's a cathedral in Castle Blanchford, Subra's Cathedral, and that's where it comes from. Amira of the Sword was her mother, was was Hama's wife, and Amira was a freaking giant. And she carried a massive sword called Battleborn. And then eventually she gives it to her daughter Subra, so that she becomes known as Amira the Swordless. So there's a lot to Hama, and I always thought, I should do some work expanding Hama's mythology. But, I think I like him best in the shadows, in lore and so forth. And Hama had all this power, and it was, as we find out, because the sisters were giving him a lot of power, and he went freaking nuts, and he devoured his wife and his children. He became a cannibal for the most part, went freaking nuts. Atrajak of Want is another guy that we've heard about. If you've read the Temple of the Exploding Head series, Atrajak of Want, he waged the hidden war against the Kestrels, and the sisters mentioned the Kestrels, who were like spying and infiltrating the League from their fastness far into the future. And it was Atrajak of Want who detected these people, and he had an army of Anuian Monomas. The Anuians venerated him as they called him the grandfather and so forth. And his general told him of where he could find the Kestrel's home world, and he boarded a great Vith ship with his Monoma army and went to take the Kestrels down in their backyard. But as we know, if you've read the Temple books, Monomas don't do well in space, especially Anuian Monomas, and that's all he had in his army was the big, powerful Greater Monomas, the Anuians, and they all died in space, including his wife, Tiverlane of Nebulon, a Monoma princess, and it was him alone in this big ship with all these dead bodies. And to make things worse, when he finally gets to the Kestrel's homeworld, there are no Kestrels there, and he hadn't anticipated that the Kestrels, since they operate very far into the future, hadn't evolved yet. So he gets to their home world, and there's no life there because it hadn't evolved yet. That didn't cross his mind. So he went nuts. Atrajak of Wanted, when he returned to the League, the only guy left alive on this great spaceship, he kind of struck out against the sisters and burns several of their places of worship and fastness to the ground. Billis the Knave was a guy from Hoban. Haven't really expanded his lore too much. And then they talk about Darius Jones, and the sisters have a lot of disdain for Baz. Baz is like this unclean place to them because they don't really follow elder religion. Kind of it's just sort of like they just don't really like Baz much at all. Their influence there is almost nil. So whenever they say Baz, they're like, Baz! It's like almost like a cuss word coming out of their mouths. But Darius Jones was an It Man, and that's where the term came from. He was the It Man. And he was a nutcase kind of from the beginning. And there's a lot of lore, almost like Hama. Darius Jones is like a progenitor of heroes from Baz. Baz is a pretty new world because it was terraformed. But Darius Jones was he was the consort of Princess Gallia, and Princess Gallia is another figure from Baz lore, where she started off on Cana, and she's also supposed to be a freaking giant. There was a lot of giants back in the old days of Cana and the League, and she eventually migrated, and the castle she lived in was the home for the while of the Lantern Paramel. It was like a beacon in one of the towers of her castle for a short time, and then the sisters, of course, find the lantern, take it back, and destroyed her castle. So she moved to Baz, and Princess Gallia met Darius Jones, and I always describe him as being naked, like he never wore any clothes. So that must have been odd that the stately giant Princess Gallia hanging out with a nude guy, which is kind of weird, but whatever. And he left her standing at the altar. And so there's quite a bit of Darius Jones lore. And of course, the Hospitaller branch on Baz, which is very different from the other Hospitaller groups across the League. They're known as the Jones, after Darius Jones. Anyways, so there's all these men that the sisters have granted their power over the years. And then here comes, but it was all through genetics, and they would have to like scope out, okay, this guy here might be able to hang on to this power and not have it kill him, and then this guy over here. And then they find out, they discover when the Lady Jubilee's pregnancy was troubled, and they went to the Hospitallers, and they took some readings and they gave it to the sisters. And at first the sisters are like, yeah, great, don't trouble us with this mundane shit. Fine, give us your papers. We might look at it later. They look at the papers, and then they see signs that the baby within Lady Jubilee is an It Man. And they're like, what the fuck? How did this happen? And then that's when they took a great interest in Lady Jubilee's birth. She was heading for trouble, but the sisters did things to protect the child. They didn't really care what happened to Lady Jubilee. And then they're like, well, if an It Man can be artificially created instead of genetically created, we're going to have this secret. We're going to have this goddamn secret now. And so they studied Lady Jubilee. They saw the potions, the herbals that she took to keep from having a boy child, and saw the changes it made in her body. They knew that his father, Lord Stenstrom the Older, had gone to Baz to get the God sperm potion that would ensure the birth of a male child. So they look at that. They go, okay, we got this God sperm potion. We got this womb that's been tainted by years and years of taking this herbal remedy. Okay, we get all that. But then there was an additional ingredient that made its way into the situation. Somehow the potion, the God sperm potion, Lord Belmont the Older was tainted with something. And that something is the key ingredient, the key invariable that they do not know, and it pisses them off that they don't know what it is. And you can bet your boopy they're not gonna give up. They're gonna do all kinds of experimentations. They're gonna figure it out. They will work day and night till they figure this out. But who knows what got introduced in there? It's going to take a lot of trial and error. So, as I've said before, I hate chosen one stories. I hate the prophesized one, the chosen one. And Lord Stenstrom is not a chosen one. He became an It Man through blind frickin' luck, circumstance, random events. And we'll see, and I've mentioned this before, that Taara and A-Ram and Stenstrom have been influencing each other's lives for a long time. And we're going to find out later on it was Taara who introduced Chemical X into the God Sperm Potion, that it was Taara's doing that put the taint in that potion. We'll find out how later, but yeah, Taara is basically the mother of Stenstrom's It Man powers. And so Stenstrom is kind of like a superhero. If you know him from, he has great strength and invulnerability. He can use TK like the sisters can. He has a lot of the sisters' abilities. When they choose to give it to him, then the sisters can choose to take it away. A few other notes here. The sisters, they talk about, well, they got transferred from where they were near Drury's Belt to Zero, and Zero is basically the center of the league. It's coordinate 0, and it's near the constellation Camelopardalis, which is known as the Candle Flame. And the Camelopardalis is often known as the Sisters Constellation. And the way that the sisters are transmuting their power to Stenstrom is through starlight, basically through camelopartis. If you look at the cover of the book, I'll blink, there it is. You see this little kind of kite shaped or constellation, that is camelopartis. And if its light gives him the sister's power when they choose to give it to him, and so forth. And then that starlight is also one of his weaknesses. Every superhero needs a weakness. Well, Stenstrom's got one, and it has to do with starlight. And we'll see that how that affects things later on. All right, so there's that. And final note, we find out Lily is not a real person. She is a woman of sand. And if you read back or take notes of scenes where Lily's in, sand is oftentimes associated with her, like the gritty movement of sand in her presence. And in fact, in many of her visits, Stenstrom would step away and come back, and she would like be a statue of sand. And he always thought she had just made the statue real quick because she was a sculptor, but that was Lily in her true form, momentarily depowered. So the sisters created Lily, who was a woman of sand, and they used her as his protector, which she did on several times. If you look back into the first book, she protected him from danger. She is his tutor, basically, and all the things that she asked Stenstrom to do: join the Bones Club, go to school, join the Ibana, become a paymaster, are things the sisters basically told her to tell him. So the sisters wanted him to go in a certain direction. They wanted him to be an eccentric. They wanted him to have access to cool shit and special stuff. So the Bones Club. So all the things that Lily did to influence him was basically giving word to the sisters' influence. The sisters wanting him here and wanting him there. And it was Lily pushing him in the direction that they wanted him to go. She also served as his lover. And the 5-year promise that Lily insisted on, it wasn't her idea, it was the sisters' idea. That the sisters thought, well, if they're not really hanging out too often, there's these long pauses and delays, that should prevent him from becoming enamored with her too much, falling in love with her, becoming devoted to her. But it didn't work. Stenstrom fell in love with Lily. I guess they made her too well, and now she appears to be done. Her service is over. Her purpose is fulfilled, and that's it. The sisters pull the plug. Or do they? Is it really over for Lily? We'll find out. In any event, next week, I hope that chapter was illuminating for you. There's a lot of info in that chapter. It's pretty long. And then the next chapter, part 1, chapter 9, which is known as Knife, we continue this conversation. And it's not very long. It's only 4 or 5 pages long. But the sisters reward Taara and A-Ram for being his friends and for hanging out. And A-Ram's request for reward will be quite novel and speaks a lot to the nature of the sisters, and what he asks for really impresses them. They didn't expect it, and they're like, wow, we didn't know you had it in you, A-Ram. And we mentioned, the sisters mentioned that he came from a family of bad chefs and bad brantball players, and in the past lore of A-Ram's house, there's been a lot of dust-ups or incidents with the sister. Like his one of his uncles, great uncles, was a chef. A sister came to sample his food, and it was bad. It was like a bad plate of whatever, and the sister got poisoned didn't die, but public event of retching and on her knees like a dog puking over so he gave her some bad halibut. I think it was halibut that I wrote down is what poisoned her, and so that poisoned her. That was a strike against him. And then the sisters love to play brant ball. It's kind of unfair because, the sisters have a lot more power than everyone else, and the sisters' brant ball teams are always like in the top contention, so to speak. And A-Ram's one of his uncles was also a brant ball player, and apparently he did a bad thing or did a dirty move and put his sister into the wall and broke her, injured her and put her in traction. So when you poison a sister and when you put one into the wall playing brant ball and hurt her, your family's they're gonna like, okay, this family is out of contention, no programmability for these assholes. Yeah, that'll fix their wagon. So that's what he was talking about there. So this is a long reading, as I mentioned. Next week we continue the conversation with the sisters. We find out a little bit more, but it's not too long. So Part 1, Chapter 9, Knife. So until then, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.